The day Shani Dev was born, his father looked at him and refused to claim him as his son. He was rejected before he could speak a single word. So the infant opened his eyes for the first time and looked at his father. The sun went dark. The Skanda Purana records it precisely. The newborn's gaze dimmed the source of all light in the universe. The solar chariot slowed. The divine horses, which had run without pause since the first dawn of creation, faltered. A father's rejection, an infant's first look, and karma responded immediately. That moment became the origin story of Saturn. If you know anything about astrology, Western or Vedic, you know Saturn has a reputation. In Western astrology, he's the taskmaster. People dread the Saturn return at 29, the period when everything gets hard and nothing seems to move. But in Vedic astrology, the tradition over 3,000 years old that gave the world the very concept of planetary karma, Saturn is something far more precise than difficult. The ancient texts call him a Graha, literally one who ceases. And they give him a title that stopped me the first time I read it. Nyaya Devata, the god of justice. Not punishment, not suffering, justice. That single distinction changes everything. And it all traces back to a birth story so precise in its cosmic encoding that scholars, astrologers, and devotees have been studying it for 2,000 years. Here is that story, exactly as the ancient texts record it. But before I tell you what happened at the birth, you need to understand the extraordinary thing Shani's mother did. Because without it, nothing that followed makes any sense. The story begins, as so many cosmic tragedies do, with a wife who could not bear her husband. Not because she didn't love him, because his light was too much to endure. Surya Dev is married to Sanjna, daughter of Vishwakarma, the divine architect of the cosmos. She is devoted. She bears Surya 3 children, Vaivasvat Manu, progenitor of all humanity, Yamaraj, lord of death and dharma, and Yamuna, the sacred river herself. But each year, Surya's radiance grows, and Sanjna's capacity to endure it diminishes. She cannot continue living this close to the source of all light, so she does something extraordinary. From her own shadow, her Chaya, she creates a perfect double. She gives Chaya 3 commands: care for the children, serve Surya as his wife, and never, under any circumstances, reveal the secret. Then Sanjna transforms herself into a mare and disappears into the northern forests to perform tapas, spiritual austerity so intense that it reshapes reality. Invisible, unknown, gone. Now Chaya lives in the palace of the sun, faithful in her way, but she is a shadow, and like all shadows, she is drawn towards darkness, not light. While pregnant with Surya's child, Chaya performs deep tapasya, total devotion to Lord Shiva. She fasts, she stands unprotected in blazing heat. She forgets to eat, forgets to rest, forgets to shield herself. The Skanda Purana records that the energy of Chaya's austerities transferred directly into the child forming within her. The divine fire of Shiva's worship entered the unborn being. The darkness of deep tapas, the weight of concentrated devotion, not as comfort, as substance. When Shani Dev is born, his complexion is dark. Dark as a monsoon storm cloud. Dark as aged iron. Dark as the sky the moment before the heaviest rain breaks. This child did not look like a radiant solar being. He carried the concentrated weight of his mother's devotion. Lean, still, already marked by austerity before he had drawn a single breath. And his eyes, from the very first moment, held the gaze of one who already understood the world completely. And then his father arrived and made the mistake that would shake the entire cosmos. Surya Dev comes to see his newborn son. He expects, as every father does, to find some reflection of himself, some trace of light passed down. Instead, a child as dark as night. Surya does what fathers sometimes do when faced with something they cannot understand. He doubts. He accuses Chaya of infidelity. He declares in front of the cosmic order that this child cannot be his son. And then, the infant Shani opens his eyes for the first time. The Skanda Purana in the Kasi Khanda records what followed. The moment Shani's gaze fell on his father, Surya's radiance began to fail. His blazing body darkened. His great solar chariot slowed. The divine horses faltered on the cosmic road for the first time in the history of creation. The source of all light in the universe, dimmed by a newborn's first look. The child had done nothing intentional. He simply looked. But his eyes carried everything Chaya's tapas had placed in him. The weight of devotion, the power of Shiva's blessing, and the absolute inability to look away from truth. And the truth in that moment was this. A father had rejected his own son before the boy could speak a single word. Karma responded immediately. Overcome, Surya called upon Lord Shiva. Shiva revealed everything. Chaya was not Sanjna. The real wife had departed long ago. And Shani was genuinely, truly Surya's son. Born of the sun's own seed, shaped by a shadow's devotion, carrying both solar fire and the deep gravity of the destroyer's blessing. Shiva counseled Surya to seek forgiveness. Surya repented. He acknowledged Shani as his child. But the damage was already encoded in the fabric of reality. Sun and Saturn would be the greatest of enemies, not out of hatred, but out of the fundamental irreconcilability of their natures. Sun, the soul, the immediate, the radiant. Saturn, karma, the slow, the dark, the patient, the inevitable. A father and son who can never fully see each other. But the ancient texts don't stop there. Because this myth wasn't just a story. It was a precise instruction manual for how Saturn operates in your birth chart. And it's embedded in the exact words Parashara used to describe him. Word by word. Now the texts themselves. The Brihad Parashar Hora Shastra, the foundational text of Jyotisha, composed by the sage Parashara, describes Saturn in chapter 3. These are the exact words. Saturn has an emaciated and long physique, has tawny eyes, is windy in temperament, has big teeth, is indolent and lame, and has coarse hair. Every single detail maps directly to the mythology you just heard. The emaciated body, Chaya's fasting during pregnancy, austerity encoded in his very flesh. The lame gait, the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, records that when Shani was grown and married, he was so absorbed in devotion that he neglected his wife on their wedding night. Furious, she cursed him, Since you will not look at me, let your gaze bring consequences to whoever receives it. Lame from that moment. Moving through the zodiac at a pace that is deliberate, unavoidable, and never looking directly at what he must test, always sideways, aslant. And even that oblique glance carries the full weight of karma. This is why Saturn's aspects, his drishti, are unique in all of Jyotisha. The Brihat Parashar Hora Shastra in chapter 26 states clearly, while every planet fully aspects the 7th house from its position, Saturn is granted 3 special aspects. In addition to the 7th, he casts full drishti on the 3rd house and the 10th house from wherever he sits. 3 directions of that averted gaze. 3 channels of karmic delivery. And then there is Sade Sati, King Vikramaditya, the most powerful ruler of his age, legendary for justice, legendary for wealth. When Saturn's Sade Sati, the 7.5-year transit across his moon sign, began, he lost everything. Systematically, his kingdom, his wealth, his freedom. He was sold as a slave in a foreign land. He became an oil presser's servant, working with iron, Saturn's own metal, under a burning sun. He didn't protest. He didn't use his former power to escape. He worked, served, waited. When the transit ended, everything returned, multiplied. Because Vikramaditya had passed the only test Saturn ever sets. Can you keep your dignity when everything external is taken away? He then said something the ancient texts have preserved for 3,000 years. Saturn was the greatest teacher I ever had. Because Shani does not take from you. He reveals what was never truly yours. What survives Saturn's transit is what was real. What disappears was always temporary. The classical texts call him Karmaphal Datta, the giver of the fruit of karma. You planted, he harvests. The harvest reflects the planting. Exactly. You now know who Shani Dev is. You know the birth that encoded his nature. You know what the classical texts say about his aspects, his signs, his power, and the great transit called Sade Sati. But there is a part of this story I haven't told you yet. There is a story in the Ramayana tradition, one almost no one talks about, in which Saturn was captured, imprisoned, chained in a dungeon by the most powerful demon king in cosmic history, Ravan himself. The 10-headed king believed he could imprison karma. He thought if he could chain the god of justice, his son's fate could be rewritten. And then a monkey god arrived. In part 2, we go to Lanka. The story of why Hanuman is Saturn's greatest remedy, not as ritual, but as cosmic principle. The 5 classical Vedic remedies for Saturn, what they actually do spiritually, not superstitiously. And a single verse from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, spoken by Lord Krishna himself, that completely transforms how you see this planet. One question before you go. What sign is your Saturn in your Vedic birth chart? And has Saturn ever taken something from your life that, looking back, you now understand needed to go? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. Subscribe, because the story of Shani Dev is not over. It never is.